Hey guys, I'm Dr. McFarland, and in this video, we're going to look at the difference between channel volume and block volume on the Headrush units. So I've been a Headrush user for a very long time, and for a very long time, I have requested to add channel volume to the amp blocks. And why is this important? Well, an amplifier has a preamp gain and also has a master volume depending on which amp model that you choose. And sometimes you want to dial in the tone by cranking up the master volume and getting a lot more power amp distortion versus preamp distortion. And that's a very viable thing that you would want to do in real life. And a channel volume allows you to raise or lower the volume regardless of what the amp settings are. So it's like a master fader on your mixing board that just goes up and down, okay? And this channel volume is an option on the Helix, the ToneMaster Pro, all the Fractal units, the Quad Cortex, and the Kemper, and I'm sure Boss and other units out there. And Headrush to this day is the only one that does not have channel volume. So I'm a little disappointed, guys. I'm going to be really truthful here, and I just don't like the option that they've given us. But let's go ahead and look at it and see what it can do. So looking at the editor here, I've made a simple rig with one amp model and one cab. And this is the Black Mini. And the Black Mini model comes with the treble, bass, volume, speed, and intensity with vibrato on and off and the sync on and off. Okay? And that's all well and good. That's perfectly fine. All Headrush had to do was add one more parameter here called channel volume. And now we can actually raise or lower the overall volume of our amp model without touching anything else within the amp model. And that also makes it controllable with an expression pedal. But what we have is a block gain and EQ, which on the surface is kind of cool, but it's still not giving me what I want. So let me show you. Now we can adjust the input gain. Okay, so it's currently on 0. This is the sound that we have. And I can actually crank the input gain like this. Okay, so it does make it louder, but it adds more gain to the overall amp. It's no different than pushing a drive pedal or a boost pedal in front of the amp, and that's essentially the same kind of deal that you're getting with that. But we can also bring down the output gain by 12 dB and even it out. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good way of gain staging your different blocks in the Headrush preset, but you can't assign those to an expression pedal. You can't adjust those at all within your block presets. It's just a global block gain and EQ that's on top of the block, but it's not actually adjusting things within the block. So it's not the ideal situation for me. And yes, there is an EQ here. We can go in and we can adjust things like that. For some reason, I can't click with my mouse and use my mouse wheel to change things. Like, yeah, you can click on this and you can like type in parameters, I guess. Like I can delete these and maybe make it like 2000. I'm not sure what just happened. Okay, so that's a little wonky as far as using it on the editor, which is fine. We'll bring this back down to like 2 or something. So now we go a little bit deeper into why we want channel volume. And this really is more important when you start having more than one amp in a rig. Okay, so we can actually go in and we can add another amp. Let's just add like the Tweed bass, for example. And we can actually turn off the first amp. And now we have a Tweed Bassman with its own treble, mid, bass, presence, volume, bright, and volume normal. This is the sound. Okay, and that sounds good. And maybe I like the sound just as it is, but I want to change the volume of that. Okay, well, yes, we do technically have a output gain here. So I can bring it down, and I know what you're saying is like, but Nathan, they gave you an output gain for that block. It's like, okay, yeah, they did. This is true. Okay, and that sounds good, right? Then we can go into our assigns. We can go into making a scene. So for the first switch state, we can have this amp on and this amp off. Then for the second one, they automatically swap it for you, which I'm still not quite sure if I like that or not, but it is what it is. And then we can name this. We can just call it amp channel, for instance. So now on my switch, I can hit the switch. You can see that's toggling back and forth. Okay, so this is fine. This is allowing you to adjust the gain per block, but it goes even deeper than this. And this is why I still think we need a channel volume on the Headrush. So one more thing here. Let's click on the Black Mini. And let's say, okay, I like this volume where it's at, but I want it to be louder. So you go in to the block volume and you raise it up. Okay, that's fine. But then you say, okay, I want to actually crank this amp all the way to 100. Well, there's not a separate volume that you can now adjust, nor can you add presets to this input and output gain, which maybe that's a good workaround in the future. I'm not sure. But once you've adjusted this gain for one sound, you can't reuse it. You just have that one option and that's it. So where this is important is this. If we hit the plus button, let's actually go back to our 50% here. Okay, like so. Okay. We're going to hit plus. We're going to make a new preset for this block. We're not saving the entire rig. We're just saving a block preset. So this is going to be called Dock Black Mini Medium, something like that, right? And then we can crank up this volume. We can make another preset. This is going to be called Dock Black Mini Cranked. Okay. Now, going back to hardware assign, I'm going to click on edit. I'm going to make sure this amp 2 is off on both of these here. Okay. Make sure this one's on. But using our two different switch states, I'm going to make sure I go in and choose that preset that I've just made. So the first one is going to be medium. Then the second one is going to be the cranked. Okay, and we can actually change the colors for these blocks. Let's make the first one yellow and the second one can be orange, for example. So now you can see there on the screen when I hit my switch, those are changing back and forth. And you can see on my block parameters that I'm also changing my gain on the amp, which is amazing. So here's the sound of the volume at 50%. And here's the sound at 100%. And I'll just toggle back and forth. So 50. Okay, and now you hear the problem. I have no way of adjusting this output gain for those different settings. So now what do I have to do? Well, you can probably go in and you can make two different settings for your output gain on the cab. That's one option. You can go in and add an EQ, which is what I've been doing over the years. Trust me, it's not the ideal situation. I'd rather have channel volume, but adding another EQ is fine. So let's just choose a basic graphic EQ with the defaults. And this does have a gain that goes all the way down to -20 and goes up to +6. So let's just say, for example, we're going to say, okay, so for our normal sound of the 50% volume, that's the sound we have, which is fine. So we'll keep that at default. But then we'll lower this volume to, let's say, like -6 or just close enough, somewhere in there, right? So now we're going to call this a new preset. So we'll call it dock -6. And this is all just a workaround because we don't have channel volume. Come on, Headrush. I need you to get it together. Okay. This has been a long time coming, and I'm very aggravated. So anyway, don't cry for me. So now we have to go back into our assigns. And now that we've added our graphic EQ, we're going to have to edit our scene. So switch state 1 is going to be the amp on with the black mini on the medium setting. And our graphic EQ is just going to be set to default. Okay. But on the second switch state, we're going to change our graphic EQ to the dock -6. And I might have to go back in and adjust this a little bit. I'm not quite sure yet. But what we can do now is I can switch my settings. You can see that my gain is now being reduced on the graphic EQ as well. Okay, so let's hear what we have. Okay, I hear like a little wispy noise, like transition noise going on in there. So we got two different blocks changing two different parameters, and there's just not a, I'm hearing like a weird transition in there. So okay, so you see the workaround I have to do in order to get an equal volume between two different block presets. And all this would be alleviated if we only had a channel volume in the amp model instead of this gain EQ thing that they've added. So, I mean, yes, it's cool, but you can't adjust the parameters with expression pedal or anything else. And let me show you one more thing that would make the channel volume just amazing. So here in 4.0, they have added an option to hit the ×2, and you can choose stereo doubling, which is great, or you can do switch doubling, which offers the switch between 2 amps and cabs within a single slot. So let's go ahead and choose that. And now we have two different amp heads. But guess what? This gain EQ block option is global between the two amps. So I still can't control the volume of one or the other. I basically have to use a boost or a graphic EQ like I'm doing currently to adjust the volume of those 2 amp models in the same block. So this is a really cool feature. We'll dive into this way deeper in future videos. So be sure to subscribe down below and click the bell. But this is why I want channel volume on the amp model itself and not just a gain adjustment on the block or adding an EQ or anything like that. So it took me a while to explain, but I hope you understand that channel volume is very powerful. And when you don't have it, you have to do a lot of other workarounds in your rig just to adjust your volumes evenly and make them balanced on the output. So I was not too happy when they added the gain and EQ option, because all they had to do was just add a channel volume on the amp model itself, and that would have solved all my issues that I've had for at least 6 years. But they didn't do that, so I'm now waiting even more for maybe a future update to maybe finally they'll add an actual channel volume. But I seriously doubt it at this point. So Headrush, if you're watching, prove me wrong. Please make me a liar and add the channel volume to the amp model, and at least you'll make one guy happy, and I'm sure you'll make a lot of other users happy as well. So I am Dr. McFarland. If you want to help support the channel, then go to my website and click on the Headrush bundle, or choose any of the Headrush products within that bundle. You can dive deeper into all things Headrush. Be sure to subscribe down below and click the bell, because I will be coming out with a lot more Headrush content now that this update has been released. I'm very happy that I can actually do that now. So I will see you guys in the next video. Keep rocking.